Hey Cloud Gamers, today we're going to have a look at iOS and Android gameplay of Call of Duty Warzone using Shadow. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest across the cloud gaming platforms. On iOS we go straight into the kind of remote desktop client for Shadow. For iOS you do have to be part of the test flight and have an active Shadow Boost subscription, so there is no way to download the iOS app from the public store right now. But as we get in here, you can also see that I've got the MFI Bluetooth controller for iOS, which is picked up by Shadow here, and also that the iOS version of the app does trigger the Windows warning and also the DirectX 12 warnings when launching Call of Duty Warzone. But if you just say no to these dialogues, then it does launch the game perfectly fine. Pinch to zoom controls do work very well on Shadow, and navigating around the box normally is quite good. So launching the game here, I'm just going to skip straight through the startup sequence and matching so we can get into the game. So I'm going to pause here so you can see the intro here as we jump out of the plane. You'll notice that I'm also using the Shadow Virtual Controller, which has very good support, but does behave a little bit laggy, especially in these type of games. This is because the MFI Bluetooth controllers on iOS don't support L3 and R3, or have select and start buttons, so you do have to use it in combination with the physical controller and the virtual controller. But as you can see, graphics wise on iOS it looks absolutely fantastic, it plays very well, there's barely any input lag at all, mostly the input lag to the shadow box itself, which for me on this instance is around 100 milliseconds, but this is not my local data center shadow, so you will get much better results if your shadow is at your local data center. As you can see, it's still playable and it is an absolutely fantastic game on mobile. The only drawback is on iOS you see that we get this kind of box effect, window effect, and it's a little bit of a letdown on iOS, but otherwise it plays fantastically. The other major letdown on iOS is that lack of controller support. I really wish that we had some better controllers, being able to pair a Xbox controller for example, and hopefully this will get resolved in future with more and more cloud gaming platforms trying to make it on iOS as well as Android. So we're going to switch across to Android. Now the Android experience is very different. For one, you can download the client directly from the Play Store. Second, you get this nice little kind of launcher to start with, so you can either launch the game directly if it's detected, which Call of Duty Modern Warfare Warzone is, go to Steam Big Picture, or access the desktop like a remote desktop client. So we're going to launch the game here from the launcher, and you can see that straight away we get a different startup screen. This does seem to launch a lot faster and smoother than iOS because it does start the game launcher for you as soon as you get onto the shadow box. Unfortunately it does only start the launcher, it doesn't hit the play button for you, so you've still got that little step, but at least it saves you a little bit of time. But as you'll notice that hitting the play button on the Android version does not trigger those Windows and DirectX 12 warnings, so something is definitely different in the way that it handles the game through the launcher scenario, and that's a big plus on the Android front. So as the game starts up here, I'm using a Stadia controller on the Galaxy S9, and one weird thing to note is that pressing the right trigger brings up the hardware keyboard for some reason, so I did find a workaround, and that is to download and install Null Keyboard, which is what you can see me setting up here on screen. So once that's set, this stops the keyboard popping up at all, then you don't get any issues further in game. So now we're going to dive into the cutscene. As you can see, again, it looks absolutely fantastic, and we don't seem to get that box effect on Android. Graphics here are fantastic, because the controller is wired, it does feel a little bit more responsive because it's not via Bluetooth, and not having the virtual controller overlay also means that we've got a much better view here. As you can see, there's not really any issue with latency, able to jump on and off the parachute quite happily here without worry that that leg's going to cut the parachute a bit too late. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments if you think that you would play Warzone on iOS or Android through Shadow. Looking at the graphics here, I would quite happily do so. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest from cloud gaming news. Keep your eyes out for my next video, which will be comparing the iOS and Android gameplay side by side.